Right. So buckle up, everybody, because we're going deep, deep into some pretty dark territory today.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to explore the world of, well, basically exploiting human weakness.
Yeah, and not just from like, the usual like psychology angle or,
Yeah.
anything like that, but we're going to be looking at it from, well,
From the perspective of a demon.
a demon. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And the source material we're using for this is, it's a classic.
It is.
It's C.S. Lewis's The Screwtape Letters.
Yeah. A masterpiece of satire, really told from the point of view of Screwtape.
Screwtape.
A senior demon who's mentoring his nephew Wormwood in the fine art of tempting humans.
Yes, and what's so fascinating about this is how relevant Screwtape's advice, his strategies are even today.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially when we think about, the growing influence of AI and all of that.
It's like we have a front row seat to a masterclass in manipulation.
Right.
With, with insights that could easily be applied in today's digital world.
It's chilling, really. But let's dive into some specifics.
Yeah.
One of the key concepts that Screwtape introduces is what he calls the law of undulation.
Oh.
And he describes humans as kind of like amphibians, constantly fluctuating between these peaks and troughs in their spiritual and emotional lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he really urges Wormwood to strike during those trough periods,
When they're vulnerable.
when they're most vulnerable. Exactly.
Yeah. It's like he's playing in that kind of inherent inconsistency of human nature.
Yeah. We all have those moments, right, where our willpower just crumbles.
Totally.
And we're much more susceptible to temptation.
And Screwtape even says this.
Oh, he has some chillingly insightful quotes. One of them is, "The safest road to hell is the gradual one, the gentle slope, soft underfoot, without sudden turnings, without milestones, without signposts."
Wow.
He understands that gradual erosion of our defenses is often much more effective than just like a full frontal assault.
It's like a slow drip of negativity rather than a sudden downpour.
Exactly.
But why focus on those troughs? Like, why not tempt people when they're feeling strong and confident?
Well, Screwtape believes that those peak moments are actually less fruitful for temptation.
Yeah.
People are more resistant then. Their spirits are high. Yeah. But when they're down, when they're discouraged, when they're depleted, that's when they're most likely to seek out those quick fixes, those temporary escapes.
Right.
And that's where the real opportunity lies for temptation.
It's like he's waiting for us to let our guard down, and then he swoops in with those tempting offers.
Yes.
Those things that promise immediate gratification,
but
ultimately lead us further away from what truly matters.
Exactly. And this is where, we can start to see how AI becomes a particularly powerful tool in this whole dynamic.
Yeah. How so?
Well, imagine, algorithms that are designed to monitor our emotional states, detecting those trough periods in real time.
Yeah.
And then they can target us with personalized temptations.
Right.
Whether it's that extra slice of cake or that online shopping spree or that addictive game that just promises to numb the pain for a little while.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like AI could become the ultimate enabler.
It's a chilling
of our worst impulses.
It is.
Yeah.
But moving on, Screwtape also identifies prayer as a major threat to his plans.
He does. He seems very obsessed with sabotaging prayer.
He is.
Why is that?
Well, for Screwtape, prayer represents a direct connection between humans and what he calls the enemy.
Right.
Which is his, term for God. And it's a source of strength, guidance, renewal.
Yeah.
So naturally, he wants to sever that connection.
Mm-hmm.
But what's interesting is he doesn't necessarily advocate for just like stopping prayer altogether.
That is interesting.
He's much more subtle than that.
Okay, so what does he suggest then?
Well, he advises Wormwood to distract the human mind during prayer.
Okay.
To keep them focused on themselves and their own anxieties and worries, rather than truly connecting with the divine.
Yeah. Have you ever noticed how easy it is for your mind to wander during prayer?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like there's a part of us that resists that stillness, that true connection.
Yeah, and Screwtape would love that.
Oh, he would. He would be so proud.
He'd be like, yes, good job.
He encourages focusing on anxieties, to-do lists, even just physical discomfort.
Right.
Anything to prevent that genuine communion with the divine.
Yeah, and again, I can see how how AI could be used to kind of amplify this as well.
Uh,
Think about all those AI-powered notifications and news feeds that are constantly interrupting us,
Right.
pulling us away from moments of contemplation or focus.
It's like we're being trained to live in a state of perpetual distraction,
Yes.
unable to fully engage with anything that requires, sustained attention.
Right. And prayer, with its emphasis on stillness and presence, becomes particularly vulnerable
Oh, absolutely.
in this kind of environment.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
this is getting a bit unsettling,
It is.
but also incredibly insightful.
It
It's
is.
like we're starting to see the world through the eyes of a master manipulator, understanding the tactics that he might use to exploit our weaknesses.
And the more aware we are of these tactics,
Yeah.
the better equipped we are to resist them.
Right.
Speaking of which, Screwtape has another strategy that I think you'll find particularly relevant to today's world.
Okay.
He calls it the Christianity and trap.
Okay, the Christianity and trap.
Yeah, that's the...
What's that all about?
Well, Screwtape, he actually expresses frustration with Christians who are too focused on what he calls mere Christianity.
Oh, yeah.
He much prefers to see them distracted by trendy causes or social movements, or really anything that might dilute their faith and pull their attention away from those core spiritual values.
Oh, it's not necessarily about like turning people away from faith altogether.
Right.
It's more about like weakening their commitment,
Exactly.
making it more about, outward appearances or trendy affiliations than genuine belief.
Precisely. He calls it Christianity. And because he wants them to be, Christians who are also primarily defined by something else. A political ideology, a social cause, a cultural trend, anything that overshadows their faith.
It's like he's trying to dilute the message.
Yeah.
To make it less potent by mixing it with something else, something less demanding.
Exactly. And he uses our natural human desire for novelty and change against us. He leverages what he calls the horror of the same old thing.
Wow, that really resonates.
Yeah.
Think about how quickly trends change these days.
They do.
That constant pressure to be in the know.
Right.
It's like we're on this treadmill of novelty, never fully satisfied with what we have.
Exactly. And AI has the potential to amplify this to an unprecedented degree.
Yeah, how so?
Well, imagine algorithms that tailor our online feeds, subtly pushing us towards content that reinforces our existing biases and beliefs, while also feeding our craving for novelty.
It's like AI could create a constant stream of Christianity and options.
Right.
Yeah.
Making it even harder to discern what's truly important.
This is getting pretty chilling.
It is. It's a chilling possibility.
No.
And one we should be mindful of as we navigate this increasingly AI-driven world.
Definitely.
But let's move on to another one of Screwtape's tactics. This one speaks to our deep-seated human desire for belonging and exclusivity.
Ooh.
He calls it the allure of the inner ring.
Ooh, the inner ring. Tell me more about this.
All right. So basically it's about tempting humans with the idea of belonging to this exclusive in the know group.
Yeah.
Whispering to them that there's this special, more enlightened level of faith or understanding that only a select few can attain.
So it's like the cool kids club of Christianity.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, we've all felt that pull toward exclusivity at some point, wanting to be part of the in crowd.
It's a very human desire.
Yeah, but how does that play out in a spiritual context?
Well, the danger, according to Screwtape, is that this desire for the inner ring cultivates spiritual pride.
Okay.
The focus shifts from genuine humility and service to becoming part of this elite group. It becomes more about status than genuine faith.
So instead of seeking a deeper connection with the divine,
Right.
it becomes about seeking validation from other people. Yes. About feeling superior to those who aren't part of this exclusive group.
Exactly. And that's exactly what Screwtape wants, because
Okay.
he wants to divert their attention from the true purpose of their faith and lead them down this path of self-importance and exclusivity.
Yeah.
It's very relatable, even outside of religious context,
Totally.
We all have that desire to be a part of something special, something that sets us apart from the crowd.
Right. And that's what makes this tactic so effective.
It does.
It preys on a very human desire.
Yeah.
And again, AI has the potential to really supercharge
Oh,
this.
absolutely.
How so?
Well, imagine algorithms that curate exclusive online communities based on our beliefs and biases,
Oh,
connecting us with like-minded individuals and reinforcing those beliefs,
no.
all while isolating us from dissenting views.
It's like AI could create
Yeah.
custom-made inner rings for each of us.
It's a disturbingly plausible scenario.
Hmm.
But I think we should probably take a break here and continue exploring Screwtape's playbook in our next segment.
Yeah, this has been quite a deep dive so far, and we've only just scratched the surface.
We have. There's much more to come.
So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our deep dive. We're continuing this exploration of Screwtape's strategies for exploiting human fallibility and how these tactics might be amplified in an AI-driven world.
Yeah. And as we've seen, Screwtape, he's a master strategist. He
Yeah.
really understands our vulnerabilities and knows how to exploit them.
It's been a pretty sobering exploration so far.
It has.
We've covered a lot of ground from
Yeah.
the law of undulation and those subtle ways to disrupt prayer to the Christianity and trap and the allure
Nice.
of the inner ring.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up this deep dive, I'd like to kind of revisit this idea of hope and resistance.
Okay.
Knowing all of this, is there anything we can do to kind of defend ourselves against these manipulations?
Absolutely. And it starts with awareness. The more we understand these tactics, the better equipped we are to recognize them and resist them.
It's like knowing your opponent's playbook.
Yeah.
You can anticipate their moves and develop counter strategies.
Exactly. And remember, Screwtape, for all his cunning, he's ultimately a limited being.
Right.
He can tempt and suggest, but he can't, force us to do anything. The choice is always ours.
So it really comes down to willpower.
In a way, yeah.
To consciously choosing to resist those temptations and to kind of align ourselves with a power greater than ourselves.
Yeah. That's a powerful way to put it. We have the freedom to choose, and that freedom is both it's a gift, but it's also a responsibility.
Absolutely. So practically speaking, what can we do to cultivate that awareness and strengthen our resistance, especially in a world where AI is increasingly shaping our experiences and our choices?
Well, first of all, I think, we need to be mindful of the information that we consume and the communities that we engage with online.
Yeah.
Are we surrounding ourselves with voices that challenge us to grow,
Yeah.
that encourage critical thinking, that inspire us to live more meaningful life?
Yeah.
Or are we constantly seeking validation and reinforcement of our existing biases?
Yeah, it's about being intentional about creating a healthy information diet.
Absolutely.
Both online and offline.
Yes.
We need to be critical consumers of information,
Yeah.
questioning the sources and the motives behind what we read and what we watch.
Exactly. And that includes being aware of how AI is shaping the content that we see. Algorithms are designed to keep us engaged, and that often means feeding us content that confirms our existing beliefs and preferences.
Right.
So we need to break out of those echo chambers and expose ourselves to diverse perspectives.
It's also about being mindful of our own emotional states.
Yes.
And how they might be influencing our choices.
Right.
Screwtape, as we've seen, is particularly keen on exploiting those trough periods.
Yeah.
When we're feeling down or discouraged or depleted.
Right. That's right. So it's crucial to develop healthy coping mechanisms for dealing with stress, fatigue, negative emotions,
Yeah.
whether it's, through exercise, spending time in nature,
Mm.
connecting with loved ones, engaging in spiritual practices. We need to find ways to replenish our emotional reserves and strengthen our resilience.
Because when we're feeling depleted, we're more likely to reach for those quick fixes. Those temporary escapes that ultimately lead us further away from what truly matters.
Exactly. And this is where AI, again, can be both a help and a hindrance.
Right.
On the one hand, we have these AI-powered apps and devices that can help us track our sleep patterns, monitor our stress levels, remind us to take breaks, and engage in self-care.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, as we've discussed, AI can also be used to exploit those vulnerabilities, targeting us with temptations at precisely the moments when we're most likely to give in.
So it's like this double-edged sword.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's so important to be aware of the ways in which AI is shaping our environment and influencing our choices.
Right.
We need to develop a critical awareness of these technologies
Uh-huh.
and use them in ways that support our well-being rather than allowing them to control us.
It's like we need to become the masters of our technology,
Yes.
not the slaves of it.
Exactly. And finally, I think it's important to remember that we're not alone in this battle.
Right.
Screwtape might be a formidable opponent, but he's not all powerful.
Yeah.
There's a power greater than ourselves, what he calls the enemy,
Yeah.
who wants to help us resist those temptations and live a more fulfilling life.
It's like remembering that we have an ally in this fight.
Yes.
A source of strength and guidance that's always available to us if we choose to tap into it.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah, and that's a powerful reminder as we navigate the complexities of human fallibility and the potential pitfalls of an AI-driven world.
Absolutely.
All right. Welcome back to our deep dive into, the art of manipulation.
Yeah, as seen through the eyes of a demon.
Exactly. It's
That's quite a journey.
It has. We've been exploring Screwtape's strategies, for exploiting human weakness and how these tactics might be, basically amplified in an AI-driven world.
And as we've seen, Screwtape, he's a brilliant strategist.
Yeah.
I mean, he understands our vulnerabilities and he really knows how to exploit them.
Yeah, it's been pretty sobering, really.
It has.
But before we wrap up, I'd like to kind of circle back to this idea of hope and resistance.
Okay. Yeah.
Knowing all of this, is there anything we can do to kind of defend ourselves against these manipulations?
Absolutely. And it all starts with awareness. The more we understand these tactics, the better equipped we are to recognize them and resist their influence.
It's like knowing your opponent's playbook.
Right.
You can anticipate their moves and develop counter strategies.
Exactly. And remember, Screwtape, for all his cunning and his insight into human nature, he's ultimately a limited being.
Right.
He can tempt and he can suggest, but he can't actually force us to do anything.
Right. So the choice is ultimately ours.
The choice is always ours.
Yeah, it really comes down to willpower then.
Yeah, to a certain extent. Yeah.
To consciously choosing to resist those temptations.
Right.
And to kind of align ourselves with a power greater than ourselves.
Yeah. That's a powerful way to put it.
Yeah.
We have the freedom to choose, and that freedom is both a gift and a responsibility.
So practically speaking, what can we do to cultivate that awareness and strengthen our resistance?
Well, first of all, I think we need to be really mindful of the information that we consume,
Okay.
and the communities that we engage with, particularly online these days. Are we surrounding ourselves with voices that challenge us to grow, that encourage us to think critically,
Right.
that inspire us to live a more meaningful life?
Yeah.
Or are we constantly just seeking validation and reinforcement of our existing biases?
So it's about being intentional about creating a healthy information diet,
Absolutely.
both online and offline.
Yes. Yes.
We need to be critical consumers of information, questioning the sources, the motives behind what we read, what we watch.
Exactly. And that includes being aware of how AI is shaping the content that we see.
Right, because it is
Right, Glenn?
increasingly.
It is, and algorithms are designed to keep us engaged.
Right.
And that often means feeding us content that confirms our existing beliefs and preferences.
Right.
So we need to break out of those echo chambers
Yeah.
and expose ourselves to a wider range of perspectives.
It's also about being mindful of our own emotional states.
Yes.
And how they might be influencing our choices.
Absolutely.
Screwtape, as we've seen, is particularly keen on exploiting those trough periods
Yeah.
when we're feeling down, discouraged, depleted.
It's when we're most vulnerable.
Yeah.
So it's crucial to develop healthy coping mechanisms for dealing with stress, fatigue, negative emotions.
So things like exercise or spending time in nature, connecting with loved ones,
Exactly.
engaging in spiritual practices.
All of those things.
Yeah.
We need to find ways to replenish our emotional reserves and strengthen our resilience.
Yeah, because when we're feeling depleted, we're more likely to reach for those quick fixes, those temporary escapes that ultimately, lead us further away from what really matters.
And this is where AI, again, can be both a help and a hindrance.
The double-edged sword.
Exactly.
Yeah.
On the one hand, we have all these AI-powered apps and devices that can help us track our sleep patterns,
Right.
monitor our stress levels, remind us to take breaks, engage in self-care.
But then on the other hand, as we've discussed, AI can also be used to exploit those very vulnerabilities.
Exactly.
Targeting us with temptations at the precise moments when we're most likely to give in.
So he has to be very discerning.
Yeah, so it's really about being aware, of how these technologies are shaping our environment and influencing our choices.
We need to develop a critical awareness of these technologies.
Yeah.
And really use them in ways that support our well-being.
Rather than letting them use us.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like we need to become the masters of our technology,
Yeah.
not the slaves of it.
Very well put.
Yeah.
And finally, I think it's important to remember that we're not alone in this battle.
Right.
Screwtape might be a formidable opponent, but he's not all powerful.
Right.
There's a power greater than ourselves, what he calls the enemy,
Wow.
who wants to help us resist these temptations and live a more fulfilling life.
It's like remembering that we have an ally in this fight.
Yes.
A source of strength and guidance that's always available to us if we choose to tap into it.
And that's a very hopeful thought.
Yeah, it is. And
I think that's a good note to end on.
I think so too. So to wrap things up, this deep dive has been, it's been enlightening and empowering.
It has.
We've explored the dark side of human nature,
Yeah.
the subtle strategies of manipulation, and the potential, of course, for AI to amplify these tactics.
But we've also been reminded of our own resilience.
Yes.
Our capacity for choice.
Yes.
And the importance of cultivating awareness and seeking connection with a power greater than ourselves.
It's like we've been given a glimpse behind the curtain,
Right.
a peek into the enemy's playbook. And while it can be unsettling to see those tactics laid bare,
Right.
that knowledge also gives us a sense of agency and empowerment.
It does.
We know what we're up against.
Exactly.
We can choose to resist.
Absolutely. And ultimately, that's the message we want to leave you with.
Yeah.
You have the power to choose.
Yeah.
The power to resist, the power to live a life that is truly your own.
Yes.
Even in a world that is increasingly shaped by forces that seek to control you.
So thank you for joining us on this journey into the depths of human fallibility and the subtle art of manipulation.
It's been a pleasure.
Stay curious, stay vigilant, and stay connected to that which truly matters.
Couldn't have said it better myself.